Is World War III here? That must be the most terrifying question right now. At this time, war means the end of the world and mankind. But there's still a silver lining here. US President Joe Biden just exposed Putin after Intel revealed his plans. It means there's still a chance we'd live. So what did Biden say exactly? What happened to Putin's plan and what's going to happen next? Welcome to War Zone. If you don't want to miss out on any new political news, conflicts, battles, or anything else related to politics, then subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button so that you will always be notified. Russian President Vladimir Putin declared the start of a special military operation in eastern Ukraine on February 24th. Russian forces arrived in Ukraine from 4 different directions: Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, and the Donbass. The white Z sign, a non-Cyrillic letter, was applied to Russian equipment and vehicles as a deconfliction tactic to prevent friendly fire. In February and early March, Russia attempted to annex Kyiv from Belarus along the Dnipro River's west bank. 2 axes of assault along the east bank backed up the main effort, one of which looked to be an attempt to surround Kyiv. As the siege of Chernihiv started, progress along the Chernihiv axis came to a standstill. While the Battle of Sumy was still going on, Russia had achieved the most progress along the Sumy axis to the east. Based on these events, Biden exposed Putin's plans. As a result, Biden asserts, "We're in this situation alone. We will do everything possible to mitigate the aggression and impact of these additional penalties on the United States and other countries. We will work with our allies to magnify the impact of these restrictions." Along with the G7, our friends such as Germany, France, Poland, and the United Kingdom are fully supportive of our sanctions. Russian soldiers attempted to conquer Kharkiv and Sumy in Ukraine's northeast, both of which are fewer than 35 kilometers from the Russian border. The Battle of Konotop, according to the Ukrainian army, was lost in late February. Russian tanks faced stiff opposition in the Battle of Kharkiv. On February 28th, the city was attacked by a series of missile assaults, which resulted in the deaths of numerous people. A Ukrainian presidential advisor called the conflict the Stalingrad of the 21st century. Despite minimal early opposition, Ukrainian soldiers and militia began fighting Russian forces within the city during the Battle of Sumy, resulting in significant urban combat. At the beginning of March, the Russian armed forces pushed from DPR territory in the east towards Mariupol, where they were repelled by Ukrainian forces at Pavlopil. The Russian Navy allegedly launched an amphibious assault on the Sea of Azov coastline 70 kilometers west of Mariupol. According to a U.S. defense official, the Russians might be deploying hundreds of Russian naval infantry from this beachhead. Denis Pushilin, the DPR's leader, stated on March 1st that DPR troops had nearly entirely encircled the adjacent city of Volnovakha and would soon do the same for Mariupol. Here comes the purpose of Biden's recent policy. According to Biden, he wants to limit Russia's capacity to conduct business in dollars, euros, and yen while increasing the ability to do business in Japanese yen. It's not a matter of being unable to expand their military without jeopardizing their capacity to compete. We have already witnessed severe harm to the Russian economy in sophisticated technology and even shipbuilding, he claims, alluding to the Russian ruble, which has fallen to its lowest level ever. Joe Biden mentioned the slow decline of the Russian stock market. The Moscow Stock Exchange dropped by more than 30%. At one point, it was on par with the 50% drop experienced in Argentina during hyperinflationary times. Borrowing rates in Russia have risen by roughly 15% recently, following a 45% drop in the Moscow Stock Exchange. We've also seen businesses like UBS value all Russian bonds or bonds owned by organizations that invest in Russian bonds at zero, prompting margin calls for people who utilize them as collateral in margin accounts. Joe Biden said that all Russian banks with a total of $1 trillion in American assets will be sanctioned. Keep in mind that the Russian Wealth Fund, which has around $186 billion in US dollar-denominated assets, has already shifted its funds out of the US to avoid the impact of these sanctions. On the other hand, Putin soldiers seized control of the North Crimean Canal, allowing Crimea to reclaim water supplies that had been cut off since 2014. The siege of Mariupol began as the onslaught progressed eastward, connecting the front with the rebel districts of Donbass. The Battle of Melitopol began a couple of days ago when Russian forces began preparing to renew their attack on Melitopol and surrounding cities. Melitopol's mayor, Ivan Fedorov, later claimed that the city had been overrun by Russians. Other Russian forces marched north from Crimea, with the 22nd Army Corps reaching the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. They initiated the siege of Enerhodar to seize control of the nuclear power station. During the gunfight, a fire broke out. Essential equipment, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, was not harmed. Russian forces had taken control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant by 4 March, but while flames were recorded, there was no radioactive spill. Not only that, but they took over the infamous Chernobyl plant too. As a result, there has been no implementation of a suspension or punishment, effectively denying Russia access to the SWIFT system. Despite widespread speculation to the contrary, Joe Biden claims that the efforts done by his administration and allies today are more significant than knocking Russia out of SWIFT. We do know that an additional 7,000 troops have been ordered and sent to Europe to defend NATO territory. We witnessed several more warplanes and helicopters sent to eastern NATO zones earlier today, and the Ukrainian Health Ministry has said that 57 servicemen have been killed and 169 have been injured in Ukraine thus far, along with scores of civilians, revealed Biden. The third axis of the operation launched from Crimea pushed northwest, where Russian soldiers seized Dnipro River crossings. On March 2nd, Russian soldiers won the Battle of Kherson, the invasion's first significant victory. After that, Russia's soldiers moved to Mykolaiv, which is located halfway between Kherson and Odessa. In the Battle of Mykolaiv on March 4th, Ukrainian soldiers withstood an offensive and reclaimed Kulbakino Air Base. Russian Navy ships fired their duck guns at Snake Island, instructing Ukrainian forces to surrender. "Russian vessel, go F yourself," they said as the Russian cruiser announced itself and ordered the Ukrainian forces stationed on the island to surrender. Ukrainian armed troops launched an attack on the Milarovo Air Base, killing Russian Air Force jets and setting the base on fire with OTR-21 Tochka rockets. Russia reportedly employed 9 K-720 Iskander missile systems, which are stationed in Belarus, to strike the civilian airport at Zhytomyr on February 27th. Since the start of the war, 88 Russian aircraft have been destroyed, according to the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces. Despite Russia did not intentionally target people, Joe Biden declares that the U.S. military will not be deployed in Ukraine, but that we would defend their friends and honor the Article 5 obligations. As Putin got exposed, Biden is now reaffirming how the U.S. would do all possible to ensure that NATO nations are protected. And according to Joe Biden, this is vital to prevent Putin from attempting to invade NATO countries. The goal here for Biden is to keep costs down for Americans by doing everything he can to reduce the cost of oil and gas, in addition to requesting that companies not raise their gas and oil prices or energy costs, and will also work to release more barrels of oil from the United States strategic oil reserves. He says so because there have been rumors that the U.S. may deploy cyber warfare against Russia to aid Ukraine. Right now, it looks that we can only expect the U.S. to engage in cyber warfare against Russia if Russia targets the U.S. As per Biden, the U.S. anticipates that many enterprises and institutions have already prepared for their sanctions, based on what the Russian ministry has notified the U.S. They currently believe that all American assets will be frozen. More businesses and persons are being added to the sanctions list, but Putin is not among them. And it's worth noting that Putin is still on the table, but was not chosen to be done, as well as removing Russia from the SWIFT financial system, which may have far-reaching consequences for Russian citizens' ability to use credit cards, wire transfers, and conduct banking transactions. As a result, Joe Biden made no indication that cyber warfare will be deployed against Russia at this time. They'll levy penalties that go beyond throwing Russia out of SWIFT during questioning. Putin was asked if he would contemplate launching a nuclear attack. This comes after Putin previously stated that if someone attacks Russia or attempts to meddle with Russia, Putin may resort to deploying nuclear weapons. "I have no idea what Putin is threatening," Joe Biden remarked. He did remark, though, that sanctions take time to take effect in Russia. The biggest puzzler was Joe Biden's statement that it would take about a month, or that we'll check back in a month to see whether the sanctions will work. So all this boils down to is waiting. As Putin's plan got exposed, it's just a matter of time for Biden's next step to go fruitful. So Gotham has to hang on a little until Batman stops Riddler finally. Alright everyone, this brings us to the end of our video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Until then, take care and we will be back with another video.